Hey guys, and welcome back to this episode of Sounds Like NYC. Today's guest is Derek Moss. Derek, do you just want to give us a short bio about yourself?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me, by the way.
Yeah, of course.
I
No.
mean, Dan knows me as a musician, primarily a guitarist. Like I've been playing guitar my whole life, since I was 8. I've been in a handful of bands and projects. That's also kind of how Dan knows me from a lot of the bands I was in college. More recently, been doing some solo music releases, which are veering a little more on the electronic production side of things, but like incorporating some guitar here and there. I also do music marketing professionally, um, for independent artists, and I used to DJ, um, and yeah, I used to play ultimate frisbee.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah.
What's the difference
Um,
between ultimate frisbee and just regular frisbee?
Well,
well, there's not really like a formalized version of regular frisbee. I guess that would
Huh.
just be kind of like friendly throwing a frisbee around in a park. But ultimate frisbee is like a sanctioned sport with like rules and regulations. It's
Gotcha.
kind of like it's kind of like soccer meets football
Uh-huh.
played with a frisbee.
Gotcha. Huh.
nice.
It's quite simple. It's kind of just like trying you and your team trying to get the frisbee into the end zone.
Uh-huh.
Ah,
um, and you're not allowed to walk with the disc.
oh,
Um, and there's like a stall rule where you can't hold it for longer than 10 seconds. Um, but yeah, it's quite simple, but also quite competitive. There's tournaments around the world
Hmm.
yeah. That
for
does
it.
not sound simple. Like I would. It sounds hard. The whole no stall rule. Like I don't know if I could do
Yeah, I
that.
would get tripped up.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's that's definitely a not for beginners.
Yeah. Yeah. Has there ever been like a doping scandal within like the ultimate frisbee? I mean, because of what? There's like doping scandals in like almost every sport, right?
But
Like,
yeah, but like how much of a fucking like egomaniac do you have to be to dope to play
If there
frisbee?
was, I
oh,
just like I don't think anyone would care. It's like
That's what I'm saying.
yeah.
it's not like there's a lot of investment going on in professional ultimate frisbee. Like all the like best professional ultimate frisbee players like probably work 9 to 5s anyways.
Yeah. I mean, do you think the sport could become bigger in the future or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it made it to the Olympics, but I think there was definitely a discussion about it. And if it ever does make it into the Olympics, then that would open up a whole can of worms as to like the popularity of
And
the
at that
sport.
point, then you dope. If it's in the
Then, yeah,
Olympics,
then you
Yeah.
then you
don't. If
dope.
you go to the
Yeah, that
Olympics, you
makes sense.
definitely, yeah, obviously, yeah. All
But
right,
yeah,
yeah,
talk to us a little bit about your musical journey. I guess like how did you start?
yeah.
I mean, I started like when I was 8 years old, and like my parents signed me up for guitar lessons, and that's kind of what my bread and butter has been like my whole life is practicing and playing the guitar and writing with the guitar. Um, so from 8 years old until I graduated high school, it's just been I had a guitar lesson every Saturday morning from for 10 years with the same guy.
Mhm.
Oh, that's
Um,
crazy.
and through that, been in bands here and there, and around high school, kind of when the EDM bubble happened in the US, I like got really into that, and learned how to DJ, and downloaded like my first DAW, which was Logic. And like originally I downloaded Logic to try to like make house music and make dubstep music, but I kind of grew out of the genre, and with that like did when I would try to write music, I wasn't trying to make house music. It's just kind of like hanging out in the software and making whatever came to mind. Like I don't really with my solo music, like there's not really a genre to it. It's like I have a couple like lo-fi hip hop tracks,
Mhm.
and like I have like a hip hop track with a friend of mine, and like kind of a chill house song, but like there's probably so much more to come with like there might be some jazz inspired stuff, and it's just like whatever I want to put out and make in the moment because I listen to so much music. Um, so we'll see. I think in terms of like what's on the horizon is like I want to start another band, start writing with another guitarist, a bass player, and a drummer again. Um, and yeah.
I think you have sort of like an interesting insight because you say you also do like music marketing. So like
Mhm.
when it comes to like that aspect of it, like how do you market something that like doesn't really have a set genre?
Yeah, it's tough, and that's a really good question. And I it's starting to come out in the writing too because what I'm realizing is it's like I could pitch to Spotify playlist curators better or target better with Facebook and Instagram ads if the genre is specific.
Hmm.
Um so like with this last record I put out that's like a chill like lo-fi house like like it's very easy to track down what playlists that will work with and how to do the interest targeting in Facebook. So if I could define that genre per song, then the marketing isn't isn't really a struggle, but I like to experiment too, and then I'm not always gonna be writing that style of music, and I want to direct people to my catalog, not just like the one song. So it's I don't know, like with my solo music, like it's just kind of one big experiment, and like a practice grounds. Like I mean to tell you the truth, like I'm not super passionate or attached to like my solo music.
Mm.
It's kind of just like a playground.
Right.
Interesting. Yeah. I
Hmm.
mean, so like I guess going back a bit cuz you mentioned earlier that you got lessons every day or like every week for like 10 years. So like
Mhm.
how do you think generally that like helped you form your like musical foundation, and how did it affect you even like now as a musician?
I mean, I learned how to be a guitarist like properly and how to be in a band properly, and that's like my bread and butter is like being the guitarist in a band. Um I don't have that at the moment though. And there's not really an outlet to do that with the state of things.
Hmm.
Um so it's kind of been like left to my own devices of like just pumping out these solo joints and sprinkling in some guitar, but it's tough to like I'm making like my solo tracks like just in my bedroom. Like and there's no other drummer or bass player. So it's kind of like I'm left to just like the electronic type DIY production of it. Sorry. Drop my fidget spinner.
Still have those.
Yeah.
Makes me
Um
nostalgic.
so yeah, I mean like the root like my roots have always been like as a guitarist, and even if the music isn't a guitar playing, a lot of the ideas came from the guitar.
Mm, okay, nice. Like, how do you think? Um, yeah. So for you, what are the main differences between kind of like or like a more like interesting question I think was like, do you feel like you've like grown more, um, do creating music by yourself or creating music through through like a band or like ensemble situation?
I think I'll always feel stronger about collaborations than songs that I have that I made on my own. Um, it's kind of like a portrayal of the project you collaboratively worked on with someone else that you're both proud of, and it's like a teamwork thing, team effort thing.
Hmm.
Um, so I'll always feel stronger about collaborations or things. I mean, being in a band is the ultimate collaboration. It's like I think it's the most natural. I think it's how music's supposed to be written, and like you have your instrument in your hand and you're working with someone else that also has their instrument in their hand. There's no computer screens or programming MIDI or shit like that. Like it's just like you're playing your damn thing with the other person who's playing his damn thing.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, yeah. Yeah, cuz like
That's what
for
it comes down
me,
to.
yeah. Cuz for me, like ultimately one day I do want to be in a band situation, but
Mm-hmm.
you know, I barely have experience kind of like working or, you know, actively making music with, you know, another person cuz I'm way more comfortable with just like creating ideas and then sharing it with another person
Mm-hmm.
to kind of like, you know, add something. But yeah, I definitely don't have enough experience kind of like being in the moment, being in a jam session, and then something coming out of that.
Yeah.
But
I think that's also kind of where I thrive is in improvisational settings.
Hmm.
Um, that's where I feel like most content in music
yeah,
writing and in a music environment when it's like you you're you have like a groove going and it's like taking turns and like crafting this thing in the moment is where it feels the most right for me. Where on the other hand is like putting things, tangible things and tidbits together in a computer software is like where it doesn't feel as it's a great outlet. I enjoy it. Like I don't want to knock it, but I'm a lot more like in the flow of things. And that's where I feel like most content
yeah.
in making music.
How do you pick the right sort of group of people to start a band with? They're coming from like,
Yeah, I mean that's a good question. Like my last band, the Marijuanas, like we got really lucky because like we were kind of put in this in the school like Dan and I went to, like we had like a rock combo program where you kind of like are put in groups to be in a rock band for the semester.
Mhm,
And I formed that band like half with my friends and half with people that were assigned to the group.
mhm,
And we would learn like the songs that we were like supposed to learn, and then we would just kind of stay after the rehearsal and jam and stuff and develop this chemistry. So that project just kind of like worked itself out and we developed like our chemistry. But now like I'm gonna look to start a band from scratch again. And I think like the most important thing that I'm looking for right now is like reliable people.
mhm.
And like the most important part of starting new band is momentum and like keeping the momentum and the excitement. And like if you if you have someone in your band that's just like flaking on rehearsals,
Right.
it's just not gonna like it's just
Mm.
not gonna take off. It's like this might sound dramatic, but it's like literally cancer for a new
Right. No.
project.
Yeah, yeah, no, definitely, yeah. I mean, so okay, speaking of that, do you have any kind of like, or like, what have been some like frustrating kind of like moments in your experience working with a band that you think you can like give advice to, you know, other people in bands to kind of like avoid?
Yeah. Like, what are some signs to look out for? When you just need to move on to the next project.
I mean, if people like if you're trying to make plans and it's just like people can't commit to the plan, or they commit and then the date's coming up and they're like, actually I can't do it, then that's like that's a big red flag for me, like especially in the beginning. Because like I don't like waiting around for people, and like I don't think anybody else should have to wait around for people.
Mhm.
um because it's just not doing anyone any good. And it's like those logistical problems hold huge weight on the creative problems. So it's like no fucking joke that like the logistical things are the most important part of a band and not just the musicality and the creativity.
Yeah, every band should start using Notion, I believe.
You
It's
just got to
funny. Like,
show up.
yeah,
That's
it's funny. Like how many musicians we've spoken to, and that seems to be like the underlying issue with like a lot of breakups. Just like people just don't show up. Like, why is that?
that's a good question. I think like just I think a lot of musicians have became musicians because it was kind of a way to rebel
Mhm.
against something that they didn't want to show up to in the first place.
So it's like an endless
Maybe.
cycle.
That's true.
So maybe that's why it's in a lot of blood. Um, but not to knock all musicians. Like there's plenty of reliable musicians.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
just got to find the right ones, I guess.
yeah. No,
But there's definitely like a stereotype of like musicians being kind of like unreliable, like deadbeat, which like there's plenty of those out there, and there's plenty very driven and hardworking musicians that are reliable. Um, so I don't know.
yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, I mean, that is the case. So I guess, I mean, for me, I think I'm somewhere in between not wanting to wait on other people and then also being that deadbeat. So I guess
Yeah, you wouldn't want
like,
him in a band.
oh,
It's a
no, I'm not
50-50
that.
chance.
No, but like, I mean, I guess that's why, I personally gravitate towards, or not even gravitate, but I guess I'm just used to working on music by myself.
Like
And
at
when
your
I
own
do,
pace.
yeah, I guess so. And just like, but it is frustrating when I do outsource something to somebody. And the thing is that I'm just like naturally impatient. So probably to them it's just like a normal turnaround time.
Which
But
is
for
funny because you're
me,
always late too.
yeah,
So
it's
you got to
I
choose your own lane.
yeah,
You know what I
yeah.
mean?
I don't know. Like I'm a mess. Like I'm an absolute mess. But anyway, speaking of which,
Work
kind
on
of like,
yourself before you work on your music.
yeah. Yeah,
How's your
that's good life
how's your
lesson.
album coming?
Oh, that it's going slowly but surely. There
Mhm.
should be a release for the single coming up soon. But like, yeah, it's been a long
Is that the first?
hard.
Is that the first like plug?
Oh, my
Like,
plug,
well,
yeah.
like in the
I guess
podcast.
so.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
guess
I'll just like,
cat's out the
yeah.
bag.
I mean, I don't think I've been keeping a secret, at least on my own social media and stuff. But yeah, yeah, like moving along slowly but surely. But speaking of which, let's talk about your music specifically, because you just released a single, what, like 2 weeks ago or like a week ago?
Uh, I'm trying to think of the date.
Yeah, it
Like
says on your
something like
page like,
February.
yeah, February 5th.
Oh, okay. So a
Yeah,
month ago.
yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, so I mean, if you want, we could just take this time now to kind of like listen to it, and then after we finish listening to it, we could just like talk about it, talk
Okay.
about how you formed it and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Okay, so we collectively listen to it together and then talk after that.
yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
yeah.
right. Let it spin.
Boop. So, hey guys, welcome back to this episode of Sounds Like NYC. And we've just finished listening to Derek's latest single. I just forgot it.
It's called You Don't Love Me.
You Don't Love Me.
Well,
Thank you very much. I
See,
make fantastic.
but you know what's funny? It's the first time like we've actually come back from listening to the music. You don't mess up. You were
I
doing so good.
was, again, 50-50 with me,
Yeah.
50-50. But yeah, I mean, tell us about like how you like formed the song, like, because you said before that, that you weren't like, or like in a sense that you're not like really attached to the music that you make by yourself. But like, I mean, do you have kind of like a specific, you know, like frame of reference as to why you made this specifically, or like, yeah, so what was going on basically with you when you were like making this song?
Well, I got do you know Splice
Yeah, of
Audio?
course. Yeah.
Like I started subscribing to Splice like right before I made this one. So this track is actually very heavily sample based. Like obviously the vocals are vocal samples. So I think like this song was kind of just like the first thing I pumped out with this new tool in my toolbox that I was like playing around with. Like I wish I came up with that intro keyboard part that's kind of like reoccurring throughout the song. That's also a sample that um pretty much direct. Like I put some reverb and some other processing on it, but um this one, like I definitely just kind of pumped out. Like it only took me a few weeks to like really make. Um and there wasn't a lot of like production technique that went into it. It was just kind of like I was playing around, recorded my own guitar and my own guitar solo, and yeah, I think it was just kind of a practicing grounds. And then like I wanted another like content piece to practice like music marketing with.
Mm.
So I have like a bit of a Spotify playlist curator network that I was able to pitch this to, and creeping on 10,000 streams with it.
Fancy.
Um, yeah, and I mean, I'm not like not passionate about it, but it isn't like the be all end all of like my aspiration and goals for
Just
myself as an
pretend,
artist.
I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, so like talking about, because again, kind of like it seems like a bunch of your like marketing experience kind of ties into how successful you've been so far on Spotify and stuff like that. So I mean, it seems like David wants to talk about it a bit. I see him hovering over like you're like
No, I'm just always
right?
like I like seeing like the data, I guess, of like how an artist does. And I guess
Mm-hmm.
like the Spotify rap is just like the easiest way for us to see like what like a small picture of that.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, like 25,000 listeners, 84 countries, 38,000 streams. Like, how does that all just add up? And like, how do you get to that point?
I mean like I have a good network of like Spotify playlist curators that like I use for work and use for myself. And this last one I actually got support from like Chill Nation.
Oh, okay.
Um I met one of the founders like through a Facebook group.
Oh,
Um
Wow.
and it's kind of as easy as that. Like this
yeah.
is a track I'm working on. I like it. Like I'll throw it on my playlist.
Nice. So like
Um
yeah.
and yeah, I a handful of my like I'd say the majority of my songs, like including this one, are kind of like lo-fi. And a while ago I made a connection with like a good lo-fi playlist curator that's pretty much responsible for a lot of the listeners on my songs, Overpass and what's the All of This Is a Gift.
Mm.
So those like I kind of I got them both on the same like very active lo-fi Spotify playlist that I have a connection with that curator with.
Ah, interesting. Yeah. So like speaking of so yeah, so do you have any like advice for, people like me, I'm about to release my first proper debut single and stuff like that. Like what advice or what steps should people like me take to really maximize, a single release in terms of marketing and stuff like that?
Mm.
Like should I pour marketing or sort of pour money into doing ads and promotions like on Facebook and Instagram, and
Mhm.
what are the steps? Just
Just go
this,
out in the
Well,
this
corners,
is
hand out
this is just for
CDs.
me. This is yeah, but like tell us, yeah, kind
well,
of
I
like
mean,
what,
like
yeah.
like at the foundation of it, like the two ways to get quote streams on Spotify at an independent artist level, like a DIY level, is kind of one through what I was talking about, just like finding independent Spotify playlist curators and pitching your music to them, or just hiring a service that does pitching for you or stuff like that. And then the other is via targeted Facebook and Instagram ads that direct traffic to your Spotify. Um, you'll via like the time and money investment that you'll probably put into playlist pitching, you'll get a higher stream volume probably. But I always say that with the targeted Facebook and Instagram ads, like that's your better bet at like building a true fan base and having better like listener retention. because they're actually like identifying with you, and you're showing them something that should be convincing enough for them to click the listen now button on the ad and then go to your Spotify and then for them to stream there.
Mm.
With that though, like your results are only going to be as effective as how good your video content is. And like these days, it's just like a visualizer that like has your album cover and it says like out now is just not going to cut it. And your cost per click is just going to be through the roof. And I've split tested that with the same song, the same segment of a song with different video creatives. And it was like, one video creative that was a visualizer was like 30 cents. Another was like with a different thing was like 25 cents. And then when I finally like put together like a dope video edit, it was 8 cents per click. And we were starting to get like good Spotify results because of that. But like before that, it was just like not even worth running. So you got to really like hone the skills with that. And it's a craft, and you kind of got to learn it like it's a DAW, or you're learning an instrument.
Mhm.
With playlist pitching, like it's just like really important that you keep an eye out for like botted and authentic playlist curators and services, because it's like unfortunately there's just like more of that than there's legit playlist curators and services that take submissions. So I use a tool called Spot on Track that allows me to like see the following history of a playlist on Spotify. And basically like what I'm able to realize is like all the playlist curators that take submission and probably like ask for money for placement, you look at their graphs on Spot on Track to see like the following history, and it like literally looks like a staircase. Like overnight it grows 10,000 followers, and then nothing, and then one night it'll just drop 5,000 followers. And um you like with a lot of those types of playlist curators, like you see a lot of streams from like just weird ass places like Buffalo, New York, or like obscure towns in like New Jersey, or just like thousands of listeners from towns that have a population of like a few thousand people. It just like doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I mean, maybe,
Or maybe that's just where you
yeah,
need to
maybe,
tour next.
yeah, that's where you go tour next. But like,
Untapped.
yeah, but you mentioned like a lot of like interesting stuff. First, I want to touch on kind of like how does one make an engaging video, that you can like market and like promote well, that we properly lead back to your Spotify, because you were mentioning how you did testing and stuff like that. So what is like a generally engaging video from your experience?
um for my job, like I work with a lot of artists that like already have music videos, and it's clear like if their music video is cool, it'll produce better results. If it's not, then it won't. Um, what I did for this last release, which like I actually wish worked a lot better than it did, but I wasn't really super happy with the results. But like I took this video of like myself like shaving,
Mhm.
and had like cool visualizers in the background. I bought a green screen too. I could actually show it to you guys.
Yeah, sure.
Um, do you mind enabling the screen share?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh.
This one.
Okay.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Oh, that one. So
No,
you
no,
use,
no.
oh,
This
the
one.
big one. Oh yeah, that one. Yeah, 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 yeah.
You don't love me. No, you don't love me. You don't love me. You
Yeah, I mean, like that was my stab at this ad campaign, but like I don't know, I was getting like 19 cents per click, and I wasn't like I got a handful of streams from that, and like it was good because I was directing traffic to my whole like artist catalog in a playlist, so I was like getting streams on like other songs, not just that one. But um I don't know, I just kind of like switched it off. I wasn't like too
Uh,
thrilled with the results. And
uh,
but I mean, like I guess that's a good example of like an interesting, engaging video and not just like a template like out now.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
And
Yeah.
like I was getting like through that too, like I was getting like a handful of like followers on Instagram and comments and like some DMs here and there. So it's like that's the cool thing with the ads is that there's a lot more runoff into other platforms. And you might like you might not capture them in Spotify, but you could capture them in Instagram, and like it's a good like fan generator machine, is just like continuously run ads and like retarget those people with the next song and shit like that. But it's kind of expensive, and like I said, like I don't care enough about my personal music to invest hundreds and hundreds of dollars into it. But like when I'm in a band again, that I think the thing with my personal music is like there's no end goal of a live show. I don't think there will ever be a live Derek Moss show, because like the the type of music I'm making is not for a live performance experience. Like it's just to listen to it in your headphones, like while you're on the subway or something.
Yeah.
Um, so with that, like I'm more passionate about the being able to like perform music for people live than I am about like putting out songs for them to tell me that they listened to it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So like what is your dream? So it seems like you are in the middle of like, searching for bandmates and stuff like that. So like what's kind of like the dream? So what kind of music do you want to make within like a band setting? What's kind of like the dream or the goal for your next band project?
I want to do a lot more like live improvisation jamming. Like I don't want to be in a jam band, like
Yeah.
not like Fish, but like I just want to be able to like play some originals, play some covers, play some jams where just kind of figure it out on stage. That like I'm thankful I have enough like performing experience to just be able to improv like in a performance setting in
Mhm.
front of people comfortably. Um I mean, I'm pretty much open to like all genres. Like I don't think I don't have the chops though to like be a serious jazz guitarist though.
Mhm.
And I'm probably not going to like just memorize 200 songs in my back pocket.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. Like now that I'm living in the city, like I kind of want to start a cover band to just like get some bread and like play on the weekends and like have
It's
people
good.
like be really hyped about like some Rolling Stones cover that my band is playing at the moment or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. It's kind of going to be dependent on the people that I can build momentum with.
Mhm. Yeah. Oh,
Interesting.
yeah,
But
definitely.
yeah, I mean, I'm just kind of open into whatever context involves me playing guitar or bass
Mhm.
in a band that can play shows.
Mm,
Mhm.
yeah. I mean, what are some things that you think, all guitarists should kind of like know just to be a generally good guitarist, or some skills,
Or just to like, because there's
knowledge?
so many guitarists out there. I mean, like
Yeah.
I really I really
How do you
doubt
become a
that
musician?
any band needs a guitarist. There's just like everybody's third cousin is a guitarist. Like, how do you differentiate yourself from that?
I guess like one advice I have for like guitarists, like you kind of a lot of guitarists are just like taught like to write melodies and take solos with like just the pentatonic scale, and then
Mm,
they all like sound like each other.
Yeah.
And I don't think in like enough like rock music people are implementing like the melodic like major and minor scales, because those like do work in pretty much like all chord progressions, and then you have access to two or three more notes that you didn't have access in the pentatonic scale, that add a nice texture to the song that you don't normally hear, because normally people are just using the five notes in the pentatonic scale.
Mhm.
mm, Yeah, that's good. Yeah, we all know the guitarist that only shreds on pentatonic, and that's that's all they do.
That's me.
Yeah,
That's me.
yeah. But
That's why I quit.
yeah. Well, you're just gonna start learning more skills, and maybe you'll
Nah,
get back into
nah,
it.
I'm good.
So like you were like mentioning before about like, was it like clicks per something, clicks,
Cost per click.
yeah, cost per click. So what does that mean? Because I've heard of like, was it CPM or something like that, like clicks per,
CPC.
yeah, CPC. But what's like clicks, I forgot it.
Basically, just like
They're
how
the same thing. CPC stands for cost per click.
Oh, okay.
If
So
that is what you're thinking of, I don't know what you're
I
thinking
think
of.
so. Whatever like you mentioned when you were like talking about marketing and stuff like that earlier.
Yeah, that would be cost per click.
Yeah. So what does that mean specifically? Because I'm not familiar with what that.
When you run an advertisement, you can't bank on you put in a budget to
Yeah.
run like a digital advertisement. Say you want to put in $300 or you want to spend $10 a day. Depending on how convincing your ad is on getting people to click the learn more or listen now or whatever call to action button you put, fluctuates how the average amount of price it is to convince someone to click the ad. So if
Uh,
your ad is very convincing and interesting, your cost per click is going to be less than a not so great ad. Meaning, like with $10, a very convincing ad might be able to get 100 clicks,
mhm,
which would be cost per click of like 10 cents, I think.
mhm.
But if you have a not so great ad and you put in $100, you might get 10 clicks.
Ah. Okay, I understand that. Oh, okay, that makes sense.
So like a cost per click is a good like performance indicator on like
Mhm,
how good your ad is. And like for music ads, I guess it's like a somewhat of an indicator of like how good the music is.
mm,
I mean it's both audio and visual content in
mhm,
that regard. So you might have dope audio content, a good song, but if your video isn't that good,
mhm.
then that's a factor on like how good or bad that cost per click is going to be.
Okay, got it.
is there
Yeah.
something? Is there a number that artists should strive for? I guess it just varies like from genre to genre.
Yeah, I mean, I try to get it like the thing is it's the purpose of it also is kind of for Spotify activity. So like you might have a really low cost per click, but if it's not translating to Spotify activity, then like what's the point?
Mhm.
Mhm,
Um so I'd say like if you could get 18 or lower and you're seeing Spotify results, like that's a good job.
mhm,
Um for some artists, like I've ran campaigns for like promoting a playlist for my job that like literally the cost per click was like 1 cent
mhm,
and the cost per follower like averaged out was like 3 cents.
Oh wow.
mhm,
Um for I've marketed artists where the cost per click was like less than 10 cents, like 8, 7. I had
mhm.
one that was like 4 cents per click once. But like it said for myself, my music, like that last one was like 19 cents per click. And I was just like, didn't care enough to keep putting money into it. Like
Right.
I
Yeah.
was getting motion in Spotify. Um, but it's just like, I don't know, what's the
Yeah.
difference?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh,
What's
so
the difference between if I get 1,000 streams from it or 10,000 streams? It's just like hundreds of dollars is what's the difference. I
yeah,
know I can do it.
Right.
yeah. Ah, okay, I see. So I mean, leaving leaving off, this is kind of like the last question I had in my mind, because specifically, I'm kind of like interested in this stuff because, like I said before, I am going to be making my debut soon, so there's a lot of stuff that I'm like learning and stuff like that. Sorry for plugging myself again. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
But
I'll just charge you for it, but it's okay.
but so what are some good, like, because you were talking about how much kind of like playlist networks and kind of like those type of things have like helped you grow. So what are some kind of like solid, viable, trustworthy kind of like playlist curators that indie artists, or like, yeah, not independent music artists, DIY artists can kind of like reach out to and use?
I can't give you like specific people, but I could give you some tools and like resources. There's a handful of people like that have like really good music marketing tip YouTube channels. Like one of them is Andrew Southworth, and he kind of breaks down like how he does his ads. He's not really the um one of the playlist pitcher guys. He's more of the this is how I run ads and build my fan base guys.
Hmm.
There's this dude Corey. I don't know his last name, but
In the house.
he's I could send you a link after this.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that'd be
yeah.
good. Please do.
He's got a really good breakdown on how he finds playlist curators and pitches to them. There's also tools like what is it called? Tools like Playlist Supply, Playlist Hunter,
Mm.
and some other ones. And these tools basically scrape Spotify's API and compile a list of all user curated playlists that have an email address or an Instagram handle
That's
in
really
the
cool.
description. And you pay monthly, like $15 a month for like those kind of things, and you basically have a giant database of
Just cold email
playlist curators that
Yeah.
you could contact. With that though, you do have to kind of like vet them to see if they're not botted.
Mhm.
So
Because
how do you vet them?
with that tool called Spot on Track that I mentioned
Oh, okay.
earlier.
Yeah.
And there's another website called isitagoodplaylist.com that kind of just like shows you the artists that are on those playlists, what their monthly listeners are,
Mhm.
their top city. It's another tool to look at. There's this dude Omari MC that has a good YouTube channel for just music marketing advice. Yeah, the YouTuber's got a lot of great knowledge, and that's where I've learned like all this shit from.
Yeah.
There's also a handful of like helpful Facebook groups of
Yeah.
artists that are just seeking and learning the same shit and share secrets with each other.
What are some of those Facebook groups, if you're kind of allowed to share them? I don't know how
Just
like
want-
secretive they
just
are.
trying
Yeah.
to squeeze
Yeah.
for all the
No, I mean,
information he's
no,
got.
no, not only for me, but legitimately
No,
for
I know.
other people as well.
I
Yeah.
know. I'm just playing with you.
I'm in one that's like Artist Managers Connect.
Mhm.
It's like different artist managers, but there's a lot of people that do like marketing in there.
Ah.
I'm in this other one called like the Green Room. I can't remember the exact name, but that one's like specific to music marketers.
Hmm.
And yeah, um, yeah. I mean, like I've been like kind of studying this shit for like months. Like basically when I like put out my first single, which was like about this time last year. I want to say like we're coming up on the 1 year anniversary of like my very first release.
Mhm. Damn.
Yeah, I think you could also like pitch it to like Spotify, like those what you call like their playlist editors too, right?
Editorials.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
So you have to do that like directly in the Spotify for Artists portal.
Mhm.
But that puts like everyone on the same playing field, and I've never successfully landed an editorial.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And I believe like back in the day, there were ways to reach out to those editorial playlist curators in other ways that are now highly guarded.
Yeah.
So
We actually had somebody on our podcast who actually works for Spotify.
Yeah, maybe
Maybe we
get
can
that. Yeah.
push this one through.
How much money do I need to pay you? Just tell me.
Yeah.
Please, yeah. But I mean, is there like anything that you want to end off the podcast with? Kind of like any last words to just in general or like to our listeners?
I mean, like if you're interested in this stuff, like I would just look up like the like YouTubers like Omari MC and Andrew Southworth, and like they have different like YouTube videos about like how to run ads, how to pitch to Spotify playlist curators. Burstimo is another popular channel that teaches this kind of stuff. Um and then yeah, I guess that's the only thing I want to put out there is just like it's all the information's on the internet. You
Right.
just got to find the right like YouTubers that teach it, and yeah, it's fun once you start to see results.
Mm,
It's like it's nice to know like there is a way for people to hear your music
Mhm.
yeah,
when a year ago it was just like I don't even know where the fuck to start.
yeah. Okay.
And it's constantly changing too. Like next year, there's going to be other platforms or other ways to market. I'm really hoping that soon you'll be able to just market directly on Spotify, and it is kind of starting a bit. There's a tool called Spotify Marquee where it's only been open to like very select like major label artists at the moment, but it's basically like when you open Spotify and you see it's a thing pops up, it says like so and so has a new record out, like click
Right.
here to listen now. That's gonna be open to all Spotify artists soon, where you could like put in a budget for a campaign for it to do that.
Wow.
There's some other thing that I don't really know if it's started yet or if it's gonna, but it was a whole kind of conflict actually, where you can allow Spotify to keep some of your royalties in exchange for them giving you like a boost on the algorithmic playlists,
Yeah.
like Release Radar and Discover Weekly.
Right.
That was received super poorly because it was just kind of like, isn't this just payola?
Yeah. 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 I mean, what do you think about it? Personally, like, do you think it's kind of shady
Um,
on Spotify's part, or do you think it could be like a good way for
if it
people?
works, if it works well, like I would probably do it. But if it works well, what's stopping like major label
Yeah,
artists
that's the
from just
thing.
putting in $1 million into
Yeah.
that and taking away all the possible
Mhm.
space for independent artists?
Yeah.
Mhm, yeah.
I don't know.
Spotify is a tricky beast, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
I
should
mean, it
come
looks
up
it
there.
looks like it's here to stay, and I'm just happy about that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Definitely, definitely. Yeah. All right. So, I mean, do you have anything else to say, David?
No, I think pretty much good.
No? Okay, cool. So, thank you guys for watching this episode of Sounds Like NYC. See you in the next one.